Good morning. I'm Alisa Zee. You're listening to the Sunday edition. Thanks so much for spending your morning here with us. I'm joined this morning by a gentleman with whom I have way more in common than I ever knew. His name is Larry Burns, which may not mean a lot to a lot of you if you don't know him yet. One of the many things Larry is the president and CEO of Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. Good morning, Mr. Burns.
Good morning, Alisa. And I know my mother, who is listening, that name means a lot to. So
I'll bet it does.
Maybe beyond her, maybe my wife and dogs.
Your wife and your dog? Well, I'm sure the dogs are howling at the sound of your voice
absolutely,
right now.
I hope they are. So I'm delighted to be here and appreciate the opportunity.
The dog's howling makes sure your wife is awake to listen, so that's a good thing. It's always a good thing. A lot of people, of course, have heard of Children's Hospital of Michigan, but not everybody is as familiar as they need to be with the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. Talk to me. What is that, and how did you get involved?
Yeah, that's a great question, and probably the most important question that you could ask me to begin with in particular is that the Children's Hospital of Michigan is well over 100 years old, and it is an iconic name and an iconic place in Michigan, taking care of thousands of sick and injured children each year. And the foundation was created not that long ago in 2003. Mm-hmm. And it was used to invest and to keep the philanthropic funds. And so when the sale of the Detroit Medical Center occurred, which I think most of your listeners are aware of, but if they're not, Mike Duggan was the CEO, our current Detroit mayor, and he put together a sale of 7 hospitals, Children's being one of them, to a for-profit entity, at the time known as Vanguard. It is now owned by a company known as Tenant. And when that for-profit status occurred, it changed everything for the foundation.
Of course.
So the foundation became a separate public foundation governed by a board of trustees. And that at that time, they had $7 million, but felt there was about $90 million that was part of the DMC sale that was rightfully theirs.
Okay.
So they, led by their at the time chairman and one of my mentors, a gentleman by the name of David Page, and he felt that it really was worth pursuing the $90 million. So the foundation board and some staff members spent 2 years working with the Attorney General at the time, and this was during Governor Granholm's tenure. Mm-hmm. And after the 2-year period, they had done a lot of investigation of where the money came from, what the donor intentions were. He ruled that indeed $90 million belonged to the foundation.
That's a big win.
Yes. So it went from $7 million to $100 million.
Yes. And congratulations.
Thank you. With a couple of odd elements that because of the for-profit status of Children's Hospital, the funds cannot be used to support operating budgets, capital improvements, or equipment. And that is usually what most hospital-related foundations support.
Okay.
So here's a bunch of money, thank you, but you're really limited in how you can use it.
Okay.
So over the last 5 years, the foundation has come up with a very good formula of how to give out money. So last year, we gave about $6 million out. This year, we'll do about the same. And what we struggled with was sort of our own identity.
Sure.
Because we were no longer part of the hospital, but our name didn't reflect that.
Yes.
So the board hired me in January of this year. In my background, I spent 27 years in higher education, in marketing, in development or fundraising, in branding. And so they asked me to join the foundation as the president and CEO and to develop a new strategic plan and brand for the foundation.
Sure.
So my first few months, that's what we did. And we interviewed a lot of donors, a lot of doctors, a lot of people just to get a sense of the history. And most importantly, what people thought moving forward we should do. So in June of this year, we came up with a new brand platform that basically, in a nutshell, if you have a minute to talk to somebody, our foundation is going to emerge as the leading children's advocacy organization in the state. Consider us like the Jewish Federation for Children.
Okay.
Consider us like a community foundation for children. We are going to continue to support Children's Hospital, but we're expanding our support to the whole state of Michigan related to some funding priorities that we have, and really becoming that leading advocate and financial supporter of children's issues.
Is there any foundation like that in our state? What's the model for this? Because obviously children's advocacy is so important, and there are so many children who don't have appropriate advocates for them.
Right.
So thank goodness
Yes.
that this is going to be the mission of the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. What's the model? Where did this come from?
Well, that's a great question. There really is no model. And there are other instances where a nonprofit hospital was sold to a for-profit.
Okay.
And in every case, they took the philanthropic funds and dispersed them and stopped existing.
Okay.
In our case, our board, led by Matt Friedman, I don't know if you know Matt,
Mhm.
And some other great people like Cynthia Ford and others, they said, no, we're going to give out money aggressively,
Okay.
$6 million,
It's a lot of money.
but we're going to raise more money. We're going to grow so that $6 million over the years can become $10 million and then $12 million. But nobody else is doing that. And so it makes us unique in that sense, which was one of the many reasons I was so excited to come back to Detroit. I was living in Ohio for a long time. Come back
Welcome
to my
home.
hometown, come back to a great place at a great time, and to try to be part of something that is truly, in many ways, revolutionary, relevant, unique, and most importantly, important for the children of our state.
To those who may not have their heads wrapped around what it means to advocate for children who do not have those to advocate for them, can you distill that down for us a little, please, Larry?
I can. I'll try.
Thank you.
So this week, earlier in the week, I was reading the Wall Street Journal, and on Thursday, they had a special pull-out section on healthcare. So maybe 10 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some great stories about cancer treatment. They had stories about insurance. They had but not one story about children. And because of the reimbursement reality of pediatric care, and that goes same with psychiatric care or mental health care, children's care many times is forgotten by large healthcare entities. And children need somebody. The other thing I like to say is children can't vote.
Right.
So who is going to make sure that children in the state of Michigan are covered by insurance, even if they don't have parents to allow that to happen? And so being an advocate is really looking at things in Lansing, things in Washington, things in our own backyard, and being that ambassador for children in policy, in programs, and most importantly, in deliverables.
Absolutely. It all has to be implemented, or what's the
Right,
point?
exactly.
What's the point? So we now come to a new partnership with CBS Radio,
Yes.
of course,
Right.
and this thing called Music Town.
Music Town.
I mean, I like to think Detroit is Music
Yeah,
Town,
right.
right?
Right.
What is Music Town? What's this partnership that you and I are now related forever? I like it.
I like
Welcome
it too.
to the family,
Thank
to both
you.
of us,
Glad
right?
to be here. Well, Music Town was brought to my attention by a friend, Bob Turner, who works for CBS Radio. I worked with him a great deal when I was at the University of Toledo, and mostly the ticket. And it was a very powerful tool for us to get the message out, at that case, about University of Toledo, in-state tuition, only an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
And we integrated that partnership with other partners of the ticket, like the Detroit Tigers, Detroit Red Wings. And so when I arrived back in Detroit, Bob was aware of that, and he says, hey, we have Music Town. It's new. It's going to be in the district. It's going to be something that we're not exactly sure what it's going to turn into, which I think appealed to me because
that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I was on the ground floor. And one of the things I said to Bob was, Bob, I want to explore this, but I need the ability to tell the communities about the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to be on your radio stations.
Yes.
And so this very interview is part of what is important to me. So we have 6 radio stations locally that we are now broadcasting our information on 30-second spots on shows like this, and thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
On some 60-second spots about what we fund and what we do.
Okay.
And then you connect that with Music Town. Music Town is engaging the Michigan State University, using music to try to create a pathway for youngsters out of maybe the wrong direction. Most of the time, we refer to athletics as a pathway out of getting in trouble. But not everybody's good at athletics or they like it. But music can be used that same way. And so that appealed to me. We at the foundation already support programs at Children's Hospital that use music to comfort children, to use music as a way to engage with youngsters that are having issues. So if we can continue that in Music Town to engage with youngsters who aren't in the hospital,
right,
but to help them maybe develop an interest in playing the cello or playing the guitar or playing the saxophone.
Yes.
We brought in my friend Alexander Zonchuk.
The other AZ.
AZ, exactly. And Alexander's going to be involved because of his background in music. And so as Music Town grows, not only as a way to engage the community in professional music,
right,
but also a way to engage youngsters in the Detroit public school system and maybe others. I just saw it as a win-win. And then you add that to the 6 stations and the ability to talk about the foundation on those 6 stations throughout the course of the year was something that it was something we needed to do.
And we're grateful that decision has been made in the partnership. And as a musician, I wholeheartedly support that effort. And time after time over the years, I've spoken with people from, and these are all Detroiters, from Lady Gaga's former musical director to the former head of the DSO to someone who but who plays music in the church. And to the letter, each one says, Alisa, my life was changed because of music.
Right.
I am down a more positive path because of music. And you're also talking to the mother of most likely a future music therapist.
Okay.
Music, I mean, I know it's cliche, but music does heal and music does soothe. And if we can work with our young people before they go down one side of the fork versus the other, and they go down that harmonious path instead, what a brighter, more beautiful future they will have.
Absolutely.
And I mean, Music Town.
You said it better than I. That's why we're doing it.
And that's a beautiful thing. Is there a website people can go to find out about Children's Hospital of
Absolutely.
Michigan Foundation?
And in today's world, my young employees say, hey, Larry, you don't have to mention the website. Just say Google Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. But it's chmfoundation.org.
chmfoundation.org.
Yes.
30 seconds. Any final message from Larry Burns today?
Well, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I want people to stay tuned to watch what we're doing. And if they want to get involved, go to that website. Follow us on Twitter and follow me on Twitter at Larry Burns. And you'll hear more about us through these great partnerships and really appreciate what the community does and what you're doing for us to help children.
And it's all a beautiful partnership. I'm on Twitter, but I don't think I've posted in a year. I say people are following me on Twitter, but I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah, that's okay.
So
we know where we're going, so hopefully they can follow us.
Larry
follow
knows
me.
where he's going, and Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation certainly knows where it's headed in a most positive direction. Larry Burns, I thank you so much for the work you're doing for the children of the state of Michigan and the precedent you are setting for something I'm sure that will be modeled across the country.
I hope so, Alisa Zee. Thank you.
Thank you for spending your morning here with us as well. Once again, I'm Alisa Zee. You're listening to the Sunday Edition.